Business athletes, what is going on? Coming back at you with another episode. This one's going to be a great one. It's going to be a great one. Low-hanging fruit protocols, the simple habits that transform your health, aka the simple daily tools and habits and levers that deliver massive ROI on your body, psychology, brain, and performance. So you guys have heard me probably talk about low-hanging fruit protocols before. What's a low-hanging fruit protocol? Well, if you're new to my ecosystem, a low-hanging fruit typically is something that is an easy win. It's an easy win. You know, there's so many examples of that out there. It's just, hey, get that easy win under your belt. It's something that either has a low level of entry, it doesn't cost that much, you can do it pretty quickly. And what I will tell you is there is varying degrees of low-hanging fruit. Think about it. A lot of what I talk about is getting your blood work run, right? Now, obviously I think getting your blood work run is very useful. But, you know, it can cost anywhere from $500 to $1,000 to get a comprehensive panel done, and it might take about a week or two. So that's not necessarily low-hanging fruit per se, albeit it's still important. Now, what I will tell you is that the low-hanging fruit protocols, there's 14 pillars that I'm going to share with you. You can implement these pillars with or without blood work. They are the things that I would typically get a student to do while they're going through the testing process. The reason why I do this is because the ROI of those habits, behaviors, or tools are very good. People typically respond well to them. It's generally something that's not that hard to do. And some things are a little bit more than others, but for the most part, the ROI is massive. It's that whole 80-20 principle. How many of you guys have heard that 80-20 principle before? 80% of your outcome and results is going to come from 20% of the things. And I will tell you, even to this day, in the health and fitness space, that's very true. You can biohack the living daylights out of yourself. There are so many things you could be doing. You'll be doing peptides and stem cells and exosomes and PEMF mats and oxygen chambers and red light and sauna and cold plunge and oh my Lord. That's just the start. Then your supplement stack could be 500 things long. And yet, even when you do all of that, I find time and time again, the people that get the best results, it comes from 20% of the stuff they're doing. So low-hanging fruit is that. And I thought to myself, what's a useful concept that will give you some early wins as soon as you hear this today? To get you some momentum, to get you some wins under the belt, to get you on the right trajectory. Because I think a lot of people, they think it's more complicated than it is. They spend a lot more effort, time, and focus doing a lot of cockamamie things that they don't need to be doing. So I will say, the first thing is to recognize that, yes, blood work is useful. Yes, it can be good to get a smart device so you can track your metrics. But your transformation is not going to lie in a bunch of biohacking gadgets, a smorgasbord of supplements, a stack of peptides coming out your eyeballs. Those things can help. But these things that I'm going to share with you, they are literally the things that have given me the result that I have, and many of my highest level students follow these to a T, and the result speaks for themselves. So, pillar number 1, and this is in no particular order, this is just, so they're all important. Pillar number 1, NEAT, or non-exercise activity thermogenesis. It's a mouthful, isn't it? What does that actually mean? Walking and movement. I cannot tell you how much increasing your step count and walking and movement through your day will transform you in many, many different ways. Don't tune out when I say this. Some people are idiots with this stuff. They hear me say that, and they're like, oh, God, it's such a boring... I thought he was going to tell me a special peptide. No, get out of your own way. You recognize that your step count is a potent lever, and I'm going to explain why. So, as you guys know, I'm on my walking pad right now while I do this episode. So if this episode's about 45 to 70 minutes long, I'm going to be walking for that entire duration. One of the most powerful things that you can do is aim for about 12 to 15,000 steps per day. I get about 20,000 because I take the hack to the next level, where I have a standing desk and a walking pad. And while I'm on my computer coaching, consulting, I will just walk at a slow 1 mile an hour plod. I will tell you now, if you want to improve your fat loss, if you want to improve your energy levels, your digestion, and reduce down the amount of cravings that you're getting, your step count consistently through the day is the freaking key. It's not just a fat loss tool. I used to think it was. So what I would tell you from a metrics standpoint, aim for 12 to 15,000 steps per day. If you want to take it to the next level, get 15 to 20. I would definitely, if you're going for 15 to 20, get yourself a standing desk and a walking pad. Reach out if you want any links and affiliate stuff for these things, because I've tested a bunch of them and I've got some good ones under the belt. So if you want any of the good stuff, let me know. You've got to make sure you get something good, otherwise it's going to break down. I see people do that and it breaks down 10 times. It's pointless. But 15 to 20, and you weave in your workflow into that standing desk and walking pad process. It will be the thing that gets you like 10 or 20 pounds of fat loss too, by the way. I've seen people change nothing else but just add in a walking pad and a standing desk, and they lost 20 pounds of body fat. Just that one thing. And the reason why it's so useful is because it not only does help expend more energy, so you're burning more calories, but what I find is it helps with digestion. So part of the reason why people get digestive problems is because it's too sedentary. They're in a seated position. Their intestines and colon is all kind of crunched up in an L shape because they're in a seated position. And movement almost acts like a pump on your digestion. So your digestion relies on movement for motility. It's very often why if people have a lot of digestive issues, getting a little rebounder and bouncing on a little rebounder in the morning can really help stimulate digestion because you're moving everything. So from a health perspective, optimizing your digestion is a really powerful area to focus. Because when your digestion feels good, you typically just feel better across the board. Now, the next part of that is blood glucose stability. I find that because you're walking and you're getting a more stable blood glucose effect, and you're getting a better oxygen transportation to the brain, because you're getting increased blood flow to the brain, because you're getting those things, you don't get the metabolic physiological effect of having crappy spikes in your blood glucose level. What's the crappy spikes effect? Cravings. You want to binge eat. That's literally a connection. And so I found that if I was to sit down and not move as much, I definitely would get more cravings because of the blood glucose instability that starts to happen. But if I'm walking, the oxygen transportation and the blood flow is so consistent that you don't get the same signal. So just think about how much easier your life would be if you weren't dealing with a bunch of cravings that you had to face every day. You're not fighting yourself constantly and then caving in and breaking and just binge eating and snacking on a bunch of garbage and then feeling guilty and stressed and shameful about it. So you're preemptively avoiding that situation. So it's one of those things where between the craving reduction, the energy optimization because of the blood flow, and pumping the digestive system for motility, and then expending more calories because you're contracting your muscles and you're moving, it's a really, really effective tool. It can also help with recovery too. So because you're pumping your muscles, because you're circulating blood more effectively, it will help you with recovery from training. So very often you will find that when you train legs hard, you won't get as sore the next day when you're walking more. So it's one of those things where your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, is absolutely fundamentally important. And the biggest hack is the standing desk and the walking pad. Now, remember too, like fidgeting and just doing things, that all contributes. So, walking the dog and doing some gardening and folding the laundry and vacuuming the house, mopping the floor. Now, I'm not obviously saying you have to do those things, but for anyone that, might want to run the vacuum cleaner through to reset the room, like that's non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So I say this because it all adds up. It all adds up. And I would encourage you to just remind yourself when you're having to do chores and things, if you do those, that's a benefit to you. That's going to help you with all of these things that I just mentioned, all of them. Now, to put that on rocket boosters, I will tell you to get a 10 to 40 pound weighted vest, because you can throw that weighted vest on, and that is what's called rucking. Now, rucking is sort of a military concept, but I find that it's really, really effective for just helping maximize your step count. So as we come into spring, I will do 2 outside walks as a minimum. I do more than that, but as a minimum, I typically will tell you outdoors in the morning and outdoors in the late afternoon, out in the sun on the skin, sun on the eyes, and we have a pillar on light shortly. And you want to go for 5 to 20 plus minutes each time. And what I would say is that afternoon session, throw the weighted vest on. Now, obviously, if you're a female and you have done it before, maybe you start with 10 pounds. If you're a guy and you've done this before, go to 40. It will help accelerate your process. The other benefit of that is when you add that extra weight to your frame, it actually helps maintain bone integrity and bone health. So for anyone that's aging, if you want to have bulletproof hips and knees, throw the weighted vest on to help with that loading on your skeleton. So you can see there's a lot of extra benefits to this. So I will tell you that taking a walk with your family, walk your dog. I would say if you can, take a walk with your family every day. There is something about walking with your tribe that I think is a really good thing for the nuclear family. It's a good thing in general. There's just lots of positive discussion and positive connection that comes out of that experience. And I absolutely would encourage you to do it, and I do it every day. So NEAT is the first thing. You want to make sure that you're hitting that step count that I mentioned, weighted vest, outdoor light time. Don't just walk inside all day. Definitely don't allow yourself to sit down for hours and hours while you're working. That's going to really de-optimize your energy, and you'll struggle to get lean, and you'll have to keep dieting more and more and more, and it's just a silly way to do things. So bite the bullet, get the setup. The people that I see get the best results, they're the busy professionals and entrepreneurs that hear me say this, and they just go and do it. I've got a couple of people that I told them to do this, and they had literally had the walking pad within like 2 days. They just pulled the trigger instantly. The ones that ruminate on it and they let it sit in the box and they don't do anything about it, get out of your own way and do it. Trust me. It's one of the biggest levers that you can pull. Period. Now, number 2 is hydration. So again, before you tune out, that's the thing, guys. I want you to realize that a lot of people, they tune out when they hear this stuff. And that's quite honestly why most people's results suck. They suck because they think that their answer lies in some flamboyant peptide. And like I said, they have their place. But you got to get the basics and the foundations down first. Otherwise, the rest is just noise. So when I say hydration, imagine you get a brand new Rolls Royce, a Rolls Royce Phantom, and you're putting the good high-octane fuel in it. You know, it's been serviced, it's been valeted. And the high-octane fuel is like a good whole food diet, the macro bowls and everything I talk about, right? And you want to take a trip around town. but you don't have any oil in the engine, that's like you not putting water in your body. So you're taking in the good food, but you're not the hydration's just an afterthought. How far do you think that engine's going to get before it starts to overheat and just malfunction? That's your physiology. That's your psychology. Most people don't realize that a lot of the cravings and the low energy that you experience, you're chronically dehydrated. Chronically. So you have a vested interest in terms of if you want to reduce cravings and improve energy, hydration is key. Now, what I typically tell people is to aim for about half an ounce of spring water per pound of body weight. So if you're 200 pounds, as a base case, 100 ounces. Obviously, you can convert that into liters and all the different things if you want, but about 100 ounces is a base case. Now, what I would tell you is that if you train hard and you're outdoors a lot, you will need to increase that because you're probably sweating and you're losing a lot of water and minerals. You need to make sure you replace some of that. Otherwise, you will start running a depletion. The reason why I say spring water is because it has naturally occurring trace minerals in it, electrolytes. We don't just drink water for the sake of hydration. We drink it to get trace minerals, micronutrients. So that if you look on some like spring water packages, it will give you a little breakdown of the different trace minerals that it will have in the water. So if we either use spring water or if you have a filtration system at home, which a lot of people do, we have a Berkey water filtration system. I will tell you that you need to remineralize your water if you're running it through a filtration process. So some people will have, a reverse osmosis. People have all kinds of systems. But if you're just drinking that water without reintroducing trace minerals, you can actually deplete the minerals in your body more and have more negative effects. Yeah, you're getting hydrated, but it might also drive up your cravings more because now you're depleting different trace minerals that are in the water. It's diluting it down even more. So take-home point here is you want to hit about half an ounce of spring water per pound of body weight. You want to make sure you're getting trace minerals into your rotation. Now, this is going to be something you have to play with because everyone's different. Everyone sweats differently. Some people sweat a ton. Some people don't. Some people are way more active outside. Some people are not. So you will have to play with that, and that's a process. It's not hard, but you just have to play with it. And that's also why I say every time, get into my Anomaly Project signature course or get into my Business Athlete Council and I can help you with those details. It's one thing to lock down these basic principles, but beyond that, you want to make sure that you're getting it right. You want to make sure you're fine-tuning it well, and that's where having the professional eyeballs in your corner is a good idea. So reach out if you want to get into any of my coaching models. I think it would be a great thing for you to do. Now, what I would also tell you is that think about adequate hydration as sort of a performance enhancer when you train. So there's a concept called the Galpin equation. So the Galpin equation is a formula that you can run to approximate how much water you should be drinking every 15 minutes while you train. So if you really want to maximize your training, check out the Galpin equation and do that while you are working out. Because that's one of the things a lot of people do is they run dehydrated while they train, and it really inhibits your performance when you work out. I see it. I literally see this inhibiting people. So you need to be very, very diligent of your hydration intake while you train to really maximize your performance and get better progressive overload. But I will tell you, this affects, like I said, your brain function, your energy. If people get a lot of headaches and migraines, this is a big reason. If they get a lot of cravings, it's a big reason. Now, what I would tell you is that you need to be mindful of the timing. Like if you're slamming back a ton of fluids at dinner time, you're going to be up all night going to the bathroom. That's not ideal. So what I would tell you is if you have issues with going to the bathroom, front load your hydration more in the first half of the day. That's what I do. I front load most of my hydration in the first half of the day coming into my workout, and then I start to taper back, and I just take little sips throughout the afternoon into the evening. And that way, if you can get yourself waking up maybe once instead of 4 or 5 times, that's a massive win. That's a huge win. So definitely leverage that timing component. The other part that I will tell you is that make sure that you're not just drinking it in the form of a ton of like soda waters and coffee. Like you want to have spring water, but you don't necessarily have to be adding other stuff in. You can add those, you can't count all of those ounces of fluid as hydration though, but don't just be drinking 100 ounces of Zevia soda waters, for example. You want to make sure the quality of the water is good as possible. Now, I will tell you that early in my journey, I didn't think about this much at all. It was one of those things. And the other thing that I noticed was that if you drink too much fluid while you eat, that affects your digestion. So you want to be taking in the total volume, you want to be front loading it in the first half of your day, and you want to be drinking more between your meals and then just little sips while you eat. So you're not diluting down your stomach acid concentrations, which will make you bloat more. So those are the key principles when it comes to hydration. And that's going to be the stuff that helps reduce cravings, improve energy balance, reduce chances of migraines and headaches, and just give you more metabolic energy, basically. Nice, simple lever. Nice ROI. Low-hanging fruit. Now, pillar number 3 is eat the rainbow. You've heard me say this many times. And in fact, episode 11 is on my macro bowl formula. Because I do macro bowls as my main meals, and I have for years. And it's like a big part of what I teach and advocate for because it's such a useful, simple process that can really, really fine-tune the way that you look and feel exponentially. Now, the simple rule of thumb, and I say this to people who maybe are starting out and they're getting down on themselves because they ate some Domino's pizza or something. And I say, look, regardless of what you did, always ask yourself, where's my green? Where's my red? Where's my orange vegetable? Where's my green? Where's my red? Where's my orange? And get in 1 or 2 cupped handfuls of that stuff for your main meals. So for your lunch meal, 1 or 2 cupped handfuls of the rainbow. For your dinner meal, 1 or 2 cupped handfuls of the rainbow. So even if you had something that you deem to be not ideal as your dinner meal, grab a fist of greens, grab a bit of orange and a bit of red, and just get that into your system. It's going to help with blood glucose control. It's going to help with getting more micronutrients into your rotation. And when you do those things, you will perform and feel better. And then you'll start making even more good decisions because you're in a good energetic and physiological state. So take home principle, green, red, orange. Like I said, this is going to increase antioxidants in the body. It's going to increase phytonutrients and micronutrient diversity. Food is like software, and your body and mind are the hardware. So every day, eat the rainbow. One little pro tip here, if you notice that your digestion is sensitive and you're eating these fibrous vegetables but you're feeling quite bloated, steam them. Steam them down instead, or throw them in the Instapot. Because if you can cook them down and slow cook them, it's going to be easier on your gut than if you're eating a bunch of raw stuff. But I just do the raw stuff because it's fast, it's efficient. I'll do broccoli and kale microgreens as my green. I'll do some pickled beets or some red peppers as my red, and I'll do some grated carrot as my orange. And I lock that in every day, every single day. Now, pillar number 4, protein targets. This is another one that some people do well. I find a lot of women tend to overlook this one, or that they struggle with it. And I find certain people just go overboard with it. It's funny, you have people that either go totally overboard and they consume 2 grams of protein per pound of body weight, or which is like double the amount they should consume, or you just go way too low and you really don't build any muscle, which is metabolically active tissue. So it's really hard to improve your body composition when you're not building muscle. So the key to realize is that if you keep undershooting your protein requirement, typically what you'll be doing is you'll be eating too many fats and carbohydrates to offset the low protein. And that is a crappy ratio to really get in great shape. You'll have a sort of mum or dad bod. Like you're not gonna look alpha. You're not gonna look dialed in if you are constantly undershooting your protein and then you're pushing up your carbs and fats all the time. It's just not gonna happen. So what I would tell you is that focus on approximately 1 gram of protein per pound of target body weight. Target body weight. So let's say you're 200 pounds, but you want to be 170. You'd probably focus on about 170 grams of protein. Let's say you're a hard gainer and you're 130 pounds, but you want to be 160. I would start at 160. And if you're a true hard gainer, like that genetic base, you may have to push it up to like 170 or 180. But I would start at that point. I would start at that target body weight as the baseline. And the reason why I say this is because if you are someone who's like 300 pounds, for example, you don't need to be consuming 300 grams of protein. So you're almost consuming the protein requirement of the future body shape and composition you want to create. You're building into it. So if you want to be less weight, even if you're focusing on 200 grams of protein instead of 300, you'll still be building a ton of muscle if you're weight training properly. So what I would also tell you is make sure that these protein sources are good quality and lean. Good quality and lean. So look at the food and ask yourself, is it just one ingredient? And that's the same principle with the Eat the Rainbow, by the way. A key thing to think about is it foods with one ingredient? You know, brown rice is just brown rice. Chicken breast is just chicken breast. Tofu is just tofu. Lentils are just lentils. You don't want to be throwing in like a protein source that's some sort of packaged hot dog or sausage roll or something. It's got like some protein in it, but it's got a bunch of other garbage in it as well. You don't want that. You want lean stuff. That's where, for example, you know, if people are throwing in like bacon and things, I mean, there's so much other crap in that. It's like, it's a suboptimal play. You're never going to like be a 1% business athlete smacking back average foods. And so what I would tell you is make sure that the protein source is like pretty much only protein, like a high protein source, a lean protein. Go to AI and say, give me the idea for the top 10 lean proteins and spit them out for you. Pick the ones that you like the look of first. Now, the other thing that I would say is you need to make sure that you are dispersing your protein in a reasonable fashion that doesn't make you feel awful with your digestion. So this is a little bit more of a bonus concept, a little bit more advanced, because basically what I'm saying is that if you were trying to hit 180 grams of protein in 2 meals, that's a lot of protein per meal. You can do it, but you might feel pretty bloated and distended. So it's going to be one of those things where you have your total protein target and you need to split that up through the day, however you do that, with maybe two main meals, some snacks, like a post-workout protein shake. You've got different things that you kind of splice together to create the total amount. Because one of the things that I think is important to recognize is that when you weight train, you need to get enough amino acids from your protein requirement to actually build the muscle that's going to raise your metabolic rate and help you get leaner long term. That's one of the most potent tools I tell people is consistent weight training. I've got a section on it in here because as you build more muscle, your ability to handle calories and sugar increases. So now your body will burn more calories while you're sleeping, while you're resting, because you have a bigger metabolic engine. So beyond that, I would just say, make sure that you get a little bit of a variety with your proteins. I would always encourage people, if their digestion can handle it, to get some plant-based proteins into the rotation too. Don't just dismiss those. I've been plant-based for 13 years, and look at my results. Now, I'm not telling you have to do that, but I bring that up because people are ignorant and they scoff at these things. I will tell you from a longevity perspective and a cardiovascular perspective, incorporating some plant-based proteins into your repertoire is a good thing. So find that ratio. And typically what I'll tell people is that if you're going to have proteins that have fats with them, make sure it's good omega-3 / monounsaturated. So for example, salmon instead of bacon. That's going to be a better ROI for most people in their blood work and their cardiovascular health. So adequate protein. Hit that target every single day. Pillar number 5, antioxidant staple foods. So every day, outside of eating the rainbow, outside of protein target, I think of a little basket of antioxidant foods. And it's very simple. It's usually fruits, and they'll usually be in your post-workout fuel. So it's going to be things like blueberries, ideally Wyman's wild blueberries. So the wild blueberries are a lot higher in antioxidants. Blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, and even strawberries. Antioxidants, like organic if possible, high in antioxidants. Red grapefruit juice or whole red grapefruit. Good for blood pressure management, especially for the guys. Good for blood pressure management. And I would say, generally speaking, unless you're already in good shape, don't drink the whole organic red grapefruit juice. Just eat some red grapefruit because you're getting the soluble fiber, which will help with blood glucose control. I even add in a few goji berries. Again, it depends on the person and where they're at in their journey. But goji berries are also high in vitamin C. And vitamin C helps with the recovery and immune system. So you don't get sick as much. So you can see here that these antioxidant staple foods are almost like they're medicinal. They're a food matrix. It's not just calories. It's not just carbohydrates. It's a food matrix of vitamin C and antioxidants, things that help with immune system modulation. Beyond that, we want some Blueprint extra virgin olive oil. Blueprint extra virgin olive oil. The reason why I say that one is because it's very clean and tested product that's got a full polyphenol spectrum that's intact and has not broken down from heat and sunlight like so many other cheaper quality olive oils. Olive oil is one of those things where sometimes they can be sitting on the shelf for a long time and the polyphenols in them will absolutely degrade and you're basically just drinking fat. So what I do is I use the Blueprint extra virgin olive oil because it's very, very high in polyphenols. I will also sometimes use the Blueprint cocoa powder in my protein shake because that's also very high in polyphenols and antioxidants. So the reason why I'm focusing on these things is because polyphenols and antioxidants help with, it's a cellular protectant. It basically protects your cells from oxidative stress and oxidative damage. And that's what causes aging. That's what causes your slow recovery. That's what causes you to just feel suboptimal. You just don't feel great. So I think of these fruits as post-workout fuel, little basket of them. And then I will often do the olive oil as just like a standalone item around a main meal time. And it's just one serving. So I will tell you these antioxidant staple foods. There is obviously other things you can do. Sometimes I think another little user-friendly tactic is a protein bar that you like. Now we'll talk about that in the next section. We'll talk about healthy food upgrades because I think this is a really important thing to drive home. And we'll kind of tie in the protein bar stuff to that. But antioxidant staple foods first. And like I said, predominantly pushing those into a post-workout window or around a time where you're active. Because then you're using those carbohydrates and you're breaking that glucose down and shunting it as muscle glycogen into your muscle cells, which is ideal. It's what you want. Now, another concept is healthy food upgrades. So healthy food upgrades is a big tool that I find to be really powerful for most people. Basically, most people, when they're trying to diet, they abstain from things. You know, if they love brownies, they just white knuckle it and stop consuming them. Or if they love donuts, they just white knuckle it and stop consuming those. And there's only so long that you can do that for before you just cave in totally. And what I would tell you is that what's not ideal, in my opinion, is doing a freaking cheat meal where you go eat a bunch of that garbage. You can get away with some of that when you're like 20 years old, but 30, 40 plus, it's either you're going to get cancer or you're going to get something go wrong if you keep doing that. If you keep eating junk food garbage as a cheat meal, because it's like some type of quote unquote reward, eventually you'll end up with like heart disease or cancer or an autoimmune reaction. There'll be something that goes wrong. So what I do is I find healthy food upgrades instead. So basically it's a swap. Rather than white knuckling and abstaining from the thing, you find an alternative that has a better better macronutrient profile and a better ingredient profile. A great example is a protein powder company called Macro Mike. So Macro Mike are based out of Australia, but they ship to the US, and they have high protein, low allergen baking mixes. So donuts, brownies, mug cakes, pancakes, muffins. Our daughter Zia, she never eats straight processed garbage like a lot of people, ever. And guess what the beautiful part about that is? You don't get all the ADHD brain fog symptoms that most people experience. Most people don't realize that a lot of the brain fog and the ADHD they're getting isn't actually ADHD. It's blood glucose instability plus inflammation. Their brain's so inflamed, it's getting foggy, literally. So Macro Mike is a great swap for, if you want a healthier muffin, or if you want a healthier donut option, or if you want a healthier brownie option, Macro Mike. That's the first one. Another one is Zevia soda waters. So if people are used to drinking sodas, which at this point I don't think most people drink sodas, but some people will drink a lot of kombucha, which is a lot of calories again, if you're just drinking liquids. Or they'll drink, diet Cokes. Now, what I would say is you obviously want to try to get away from too much synthetic artificial sweeteners. I feel like the jury's still out on those things, but I'm not convinced that slamming back a lot of that stuff all the time is a great idea. So the reason why I like Zevia is because they're sweetened with stevia, which is, in my opinion, a cleaner, healthier option than, say, sucralose or aspartame. So at least it's a better version. So I will tell people, if you're getting cravings, if you like soda waters, if you like, whatever, I find in general, it helps break that sort of craving signal, getting something refreshing and carbonated into your system. If you want to. You don't have to do this. The Zevia soda waters is one. Another one is stir flavored water drops. STUR, stir. We do this for our kids. Rather than giving juice, shouldn't be in your house. Unless you're doing something special like a Ironman, or you're doing some endurance event where you want juice, like fast sugars to hit your system, you shouldn't even really have juice at all. I don't see there's a place for it, really. So use stir-flavored water drops. It gives you this nice, delicious flavor with your water. It makes it enjoyable. It will probably also help you hit your targets with your hydration intake if it's something that you feel like you enjoy. That's another one. Now, another thing that I tell people is find a protein bar that you like the taste of, rather than eating a Twix or Twinkies or just a piece of straight junk. So a common one that a lot of people will use is a David protein bar. So David is a reasonably clean profile. It's 150 calories and 28 grams of protein. Because I'm plant-based, I'll do the chocolate dip no-cal bars, or I'll do some of the Macro Mike bars. Now, I love them. Now, again, would you say, oh, it's processed? Yeah, it is. It is processed. It's probably not the best thing you could consume, but fitness people have to get off their soapbox and realize that this is a long-term play, and if you can help someone find a better alternative than a straight piece of garbage junk food with like 5 grams of protein and a ton of fat and carbs, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. That context matters. Context matters. And so I tell people, get a couple of different protein bars that you like the taste of. And if you need ideas for that, reach out to me and I can send you some suggestions. But things like Aloha bars, Macro bars, Cliff bars, David bars, There's a lot of different ones. Quest bars, there's a lot of different ones. Again, I'm not saying that they're the healthiest thing, and I'm not advocating for them, but I'm saying it's another healthy food upgrade. And again, even things like ice cream. So if you go to YouTube and search how to make protein nice cream, or you get a Ninja Creamy. I've got a number of students who use a Ninja Creamy. And you can make a protein ice cream with frozen ripe bananas. And it's like soft serve ice cream. So you got the protein powder in there, and you got the frozen bananas as the base. It's about a third of the calories of a Ben and Jerry's. So I say this because there is literally healthy food upgrades for everything. For everything. And some of them are low calorie too. So there's ones for peanut butter that's not powdered. There's ones for bread. There's ones for pizza bases. There's ones for pasta. There's ones for everything. I would tell you, just get in my Business Athlete Council for that reason alone. I have a repertoire of things that I suggest to my Business Athlete Council students that absolutely changes the game for them. I never deviate from my diet, and I haven't in years because I've locked this process in so well. And once you do, you just feel foolish that it took you so long to figure these things out. So that healthy food upgrade principle is an absolute key. Absolute key. Now, next pillar is your healthy fats. Now, just like the rainbow concept, just like the antioxidant concept, one of the things that I think is another thing to just remember is that each day, think of like, where's my healthy fats? It's going to tie back into that Blueprint Extra Virgin olive oil, one serving of that every day, but also things like avocado, hummus, or hemp seed. So I'll typically tell people, hey, add a bit of hemp seed to your protein smoothie bowl. Add a little bit of avocado or hummus to your main meals. So I would say between those things, that's a good place to start. Just keep it simple. Monounsaturated omega-3 based fats. And obviously, a lot of people love avocado. So I do think it's worth paying attention to getting some healthy fats in the rotation, because that's going to be good for hormone health, cardiovascular health, and inflammation control. Now, I will tell you though, ideally opt for omega-3 based monounsaturated fats. People go nuts on saturated, and what I will tell you is that it's not that they're bad, but people that have hypolipidemia, aka they have a high level of LDL or ApoB cholesterol, you're more sensitive to the negative effect of certain fats. And so if you're someone that typically almost genetically has higher cholesterol and metabolic syndrome, like high triglycerides as well, you will have a tendency to run a high ApoB score, which is not good, if you're adding in a lot of saturated fat, like butter, ghee, bacon, a ton of whole eggs. Again, though, I want to emphasize this. Everyone is different. Some people don't have this sensitivity, so they can do more of those things. I've had students who will add in multiple whole eggs and get no issue. For me, when I did that, it drove it through the roof. That's why people get confused about diet choices and cholesterol and fats, because they don't understand that the context of your unique situation is really what drives the outcome. So that's, again, why people will come to me, because I don't have a dogmatic approach to this. I'm like, what does your data say? Let's figure out what your data says, and let's base it off that. But the main reason why I suggest those fats that I mentioned just before is because, generally speaking, they're the ones that yield and create the best ROI across the board. There's really no negative consequence of adding those ones in. There's just positive. And especially from a mental health and brain perspective, omega-3 and monounsaturated fats are very good for quality brain health. And like I always say, you've got to get your brain right mentally if you want to feel and perform like a business athlete during your day, in your job, as a spouse, as a parent. If that brain's inflamed, everything's more difficult. Now, pillar number 7 is whole food principle. Simple thing, simple rule of thumb. Is it a food with one ingredient? Brown rice is just brown rice. Chicken breast is just chicken breast. Tofu is just tofu. Blueberries are just blueberries. Broccoli is just broccoli. If you can add and create macro bowl meals and a rotation of snacks, of 90+% of your diet with foods with one ingredient, whole foods, minimally processed, eliminating almost all ultra-processed foods. Maybe you just have a protein bar. Maybe you just have like a little healthy food upgrade in there, and that's it. The other 10% is your healthy food upgrade / protein bar, whatever, your macro mic. But the other 90% is foods with one ingredient, whole foods, eat the rainbow, antioxidants, whole food fats. If you just literally added those things together and you stuck with that for a month, you would start to really notice positive changes with your productivity, output, production, and health. Really. Now, next pillar is smart condiment hacks. One of the things that people struggle with long term is that they find the food gets boring for them. First of all, you need to dig into the emotionality of that. I tell people, don't be eating just for some emotional reason. Eat for this high performance function. Remember, it's medicinal. Remember, it's good quality fuel to help the race car perform better. Think of yourself as a race car, like a professional, high-level race car. And over time, when you get around environments where people think this way, it will become normal for you. But if you're not flavoring your meals in creative ways that taste good, you will get bored and you will relapse and you'll be like, I'm bored of this. I need something else. I need variety. Variety is the spice of life, and all the other things that a lot of average people will tell themselves as to why they can't stick with anything. You don't hear the sharpshooters, the true business athletes say any of that stuff. So what do we do? So there is a rotation of condiments that I think are useful. New sauce is one. So new sauce. I like new sauce because they're the most clean quality ingredients. The calories are about 5 to 15 calories per serving, so it's very low in calories. Most people don't realize that the average condiment's maybe 100 to 200 calories a serving. You can get fat just eating too much condiments, for heaven's sakes. So New Sauce, Flavor Gang, or Taste Flavor Company, or the G. Hughes sugar-free barbecue sauce. But New Sauce and Taste Flavor Company are some good ones. Now, yeah, sure, some of these have a little bit of artificial sweetener. They've got some other sort of processed things in them. Maybe even some have a couple of seed oils. But what I would tell you, generally speaking, is that unless you're really advanced with your health and you are really dialed in, these are still going to work in your favor. You've got to solve problems in the right order. If you're worried about seed oils in your condiment, but you're eating Oreos and Ben & Jerry's, you've got it all backwards. You got it all backwards. Solve problems in the right order. Have the little bit of the condiment that allows you to clean the diet up and not deviate and eat a Domino's pizza instead. That's why I do it. Context is everything. So make sure that you use these condiments that I just suggested: New Sauce, Flavor Gang, Taste Flavor Company, and G. Hughes sugar-free sauces. What it does is it allows you to get more flavor and variety. It improves your adherence to the diet because it increases your satiety and your enjoyment of the food. Think of condiments that you really love the taste of. It makes food so much more enjoyable long term. That's exactly why we do this, but we need it to be low-calorie stuff. Now, I will say, beyond the smart condiment hacks, you can use different spices and things. You can use some fresh garlic and onions. You can use smoked paprika, garlic powder, onion powder. You can use all that stuff. Knock yourself out. But what I will say is that a lot of people, they still feel like that's not enough. And so these smart condiment hacks are part of that solution. One pro tip that I do personally is I will use a condiment that's more calories. There's one called G sauce. It's my favorite sauce. G sauce, Jee sauce. G sauce is amazing. You have to order it online. But what I do is, because it's more of a thick, creamy, nut-based sauce, I add some water to it to dilute it down to make it more of like a dressing. And so I take half a serving of it, which instead of being 150 calories, maybe it's like 70 or 50. And I dilute it down a bit. The flavor is still strong enough, but it goes way further when it's watered down as a dressing. So I'm still getting the taste, I'm still getting the flavor, but it's like half the calories. So that's the way I'll play that game if I want a condiment that's more calorie dense, but I want to try to reduce down the density of it. That's a good pro tip there. So smart condiment hacks is another really important tool. Next one is cooking methods. Most people undo themselves on this as well. Not only do they add a bunch of olive oil and dressings to their salad, so they take their 100 calorie salad and make it a 500 calorie salad. That's a big challenge that people do, they get it wrong. But the other thing they do is they add in a bunch of butter or ghee or coconut oil or something while they're cooking their proteins. So you'll take your serving of protein and you add an extra 200 or 300 calories of oil to it. You do realize that oil's on the food and that you're consuming that. And that's just a calorie bomb right there. It's a total calorie bomb. And I don't cook my olive oil because it breaks down under heat. So I'll take that raw. But what I do instead is I'll use our air fryer and I'll use a green pan. So green pan is a ceramic non-stick skillet. The reason why I use that is because if you're using cast iron like a lot of people do, you've got to add a ton of butter or ghee or avocado oil to that to get it even operational. That's a ton of extra calories. So unless you're a hard gainer and you want to gain weight, which is not most people's goal, removing the oils from your cook methods and adding in condiment upgrades are two potent tools to strip calories out of your diet that will get you much more accelerated fat loss. So I will always just cook with an air fryer now because it's efficient, it's fast, it reduces down mental friction, there's less to clean up. I mean, there's so many benefits in terms of like not having a bunch of stuff to clean up, a bunch of pans to scrub. It cooks fast. Because the reason why I say this is because the crispy texture of a food is important. Think about if you were just to eat a boiled chicken breast versus a nice crispy pan-seared one. The difference between a boiled piece of protein and a nice crispy one is pretty different for most people. Most people would be able to stick with the process longer when the texture is more enjoyable to them. When the texture is not enjoyable, good luck. So between enjoying and improving the taste and improving the texture, those are two biological levers that will really help you stick with these concepts longer term. You've got to learn how to play that long-term game. Pillar number 10 is consistent sleep rhythm. This is a big one. People don't understand this. You get people that will have a certain bedtime and wake time during the week, and then in the weekends they stay up all night because it's like their escape. The more regular sleep hygiene you can have, the better you will feel. And what I mean by sleep hygiene is as a regular sleep-wake cycle, 7 days a week. We're in bed every night at 8 p.m. And I get up without an alarm at 2:30 at least every day, and I feel amazing. I feel refreshed. I hit all my REM sleep targets, all my deep sleep targets. Everything's locked in. And I do it day after day after day, nonstop, because I genuinely love how it makes me feel. So what I would tell you is walk your bedtime back a little bit if you have to. Get to bed slightly earlier. Make sure that you're consistent with your sleep and wake time. I've done entire podcasts on sleep optimization. I mean, one of the things that I'll say as a bonus with the sleep optimization is you need to do certain things, behaviors, and habits as you come into your sleep time that's going to wind your nervous system down. See, if you just go straight from eating and scrolling social media and watching some wars and conflicts on social media, and then you try and lay down and sleep, good luck. That's where you just lay there and you fidget and you just feel wired and tired. Instead, what I do is we turn on some nice, relaxing essential oils to diffuse. So some lavender. We'll swap out any of the blue light and interior lights in the house with Himalayan salt lamps and candlelit diffusers. So we're diffusing oils and we're using Himalayan salt lamps. Because that way, the tones, it's a lot of red light tones, and you're not getting a ton of blue light emission from screens and interior light. Put blue light filters on your phone, blue light filters on your computer, and detach for 30 minutes off your tech. Another thing is we'll put on a relaxing spa music in Spotify. So for either YouTube Premium or Spotify, we'll have spa music playlists. So play some relaxing, calming spa music. Turn the air temperature down to, say, like 64 or 65 degrees. If you do those things, now you're addressing your sense of smell. You're addressing your visual cortex with the light. You're addressing your auditory cortex with the spa playlist. And you're addressing your tactile, which is like your skin, your touch, with the cold temperature. If you were just to do that every night and make sure that you eat at least about 3 hours before bed, I tell people, try to eat further away from your bedtime. Give your body time to digest and break food down. But 3+ hours, if you can, and those 4 sensory inputs, if you do that, you'll start to optimize your sleep. And then you get that consistent sleep-wake time, and I promise you that will help you a ton. You will feel more groggy and more tired when you have maybe 5 or 6 days in the week, and then one night you're staying up to 2 a.m. I mean, you'll just be so thrown off with that metabolically. And as you age, the rebound of that will get progressively worse. So you really want to be consistent sleep-wake cycle. Now, another one is foundational supplements. Generally speaking, I find there's a foundation of core supplements that for most people are useful. Like if most people want to get their blood work done and get some more fine-tuned supplementation in the rotation, perfect, we can do that. So what I do in my business athlete council and what I do in my one-on-one stuff. But generally speaking, if someone's coming in, a good quality multivitamin, omega-3 fatty acids, a mineral supplement, good quality creatine monohydrate, a good quality protein powder, ideally a superfood protein powder, and essential amino acids. Now, I have brands for all these things, so if you want any feedback on that, reach out and I'll get my assistant to send those through to you, because you've got to make sure you get quality stuff. The supplement industry is the Wild West, and there's a lot of low-grade garbage out there that's got heavy metals and fillers in it. It's not even often the legitimate stuff in there, in the ingredients or the proportions they say. So you got to make sure you're intentional with the quality of the products you're using. But that little list that I just gave you is a very good base layer to start with. So I would be starting with that if anything. Pillar number 12 is strength training. So ideally every second day or at least 4 days a week, you want to be lifting weights. Now, ideally training multiple muscle groups. I would be training every muscle group 2 times a week as a base. So legs 2 times a week, back 2 times a week. So you basically could do something like an upper-lower body split, upper-lower, 4 days, rest days in between. If you just do that and you're conscious about your quote-unquote progressive overload, meaning week by week, you're increasing the weight that you're lifting for each exercise, that alone is going to change the game for you. So that's something that obviously it's a lifelong process, and it takes time. And some workout sessions will be great, and some won't. I've had many sessions that I thought were total garbage. I'm like, oh man, that sucked. But it doesn't matter. As long as you show up and you get it done, that is the main thing. Because you will have other sessions that are good. But the reason why we want to absolutely have weightlifting as a non-negotiable, even for like an elderly woman, is because your ability to hold and build muscle is a powerful longevity tool. It's a key metabolic health tool. It's much more than just a cosmetic thing. When you have muscle mass, you're more insulin sensitive. When you have muscle mass, you will manage calories in your metabolism a lot more effectively. When you have muscle mass, everything improves. Your sex hormones will improve. All your blood metrics typically improve. Now, it doesn't mean that you can just neglect other stuff, but strength training every second day, big muscle groups, 2 times each. That's the focus. So lock that in. And like I said, my Anomaly Project 6-week course has all of these processes mapped out for you. So if you need direction, get the help. Like I always say, pros get pro help, amateurs bootleg and guess. And maybe you've been an amateur up to this point, but what do you want to be coming through the rest of this year? Because you get to decide that. Now, the next pillar, 13, morning sunlight. and in fact, sunlight in general. This kind of ties into the NEAT, or the non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So what I would tell you is it's not just enough to hit a high step count if you're inside all day long. There's something about the wavelengths and the red light that comes from sunlight that is very, very important for human physiology. I tell people, imagine you're like a combination between a windmill and a solar panel. Like if you are wanting to charge up your cells, you need to literally get light into your system, like photosynthesis. It really is a thing. That's why people typically get better mental health coming into summertime, because they get more light exposure. Because lack of light exposure affects vitamin D intake. Low vitamin D makes mood drop, and it crashes immune system. And so typically that's why people get seasonal colds and flus, because of their low vitamin D status, because they're not getting that natural light exposure as much. And so I would tell you, even if you can't, on a rainy week, get a Hooga red light panel and use that. But as a base case minimum, outdoors 2 times a day, some point in the mid-morning and some point in the late afternoon for 5+ minutes. Even if it's just 5 minutes, I go for about 20 to 30. And I'll habit stack some productivity things on my phone while I'm walking. Like there's a whole concept around being productive while you're out walking, and you can do all kinds of things. But if you're not getting that light exposure, you won't get the sleep response you want. That light exposure helps with melatonin timing. So it helps with circadian rhythm. It actually helps enhance sleep. It helps with dopamine regulation. So it's going to help increase your general mood and state. It helps with hormone balance. And so obviously when your hormones are more balanced and stable, you not only get in better shape physically, but you'll feel more mentally stable and you'll feel more energetic. For a lot of people, if their testosterone's low, or for the ladies, if they're going through sort of menopausal stuff, that can make you feel very poor. And so light can help with that. And then obviously, like I mentioned, when it helps with sleep quality, everything starts to improve. So every day, you need to think to yourself, did I get my morning light exposure? Did I get my afternoon, evening light exposure? At least 5 minutes, if not more. Lock that in. Lock it in, especially if you can get out and walk while you're doing it. Bonus points. Now, the last thing that I would say with low-hanging fruit is post-meal walking. All you need to do is when you eat a meal, go for a 5 or 10 minute walk. Eat a meal, go 5 or 10 minute walk, anything. 5 minutes, especially if you walk out in the sun. So you can see that a lot of these habits stack together. A lot of them stack together. So imagine if you were to create main meals where you're eating the rainbow, you're adding in some antioxidants after your workout, you're adding in polyphenols and healthy fats with the main meals, you're hitting your protein target, and then after those meals, you are drinking hydration between the meals, and you're walking after those meals out in the sun, and you're weight training every second day. And you're adding that supplement stack in as a base. If you were to do that consistently, you will get better results than 95% of people. You just got to be consistent with it. That's the biggest challenge, is most people, they think that it's just about the tactics. If it was just about the tactics, you could go to ChatGPT and get the most beautiful plan ever. The reason why it does not work is because it's not the full equation. It's not the full equation. You can go to YouTube and get all kinds of workout ideas. You could go to ChatGPT right now and plug in your situation and it will give you the perfect plan. Why is not everyone in shape then? They're not in shape because it's not the full picture. What is missing? The environment, the soil. That's why I keep telling you guys to get into my Business Athlete Council or get into my 6-week signature course. Because the soil is the environment. Think about if you had a fruit tree and you plant that fruit tree and you pour the water all over it and you're giving it sunlight. So the water is your hydration, the sunlight is the food, and you're giving it all this nurturing, but you planted it in clay. How likely do you think you'd be able to yield a lot of good fruit from that? It would probably die. It wouldn't work, would it? That's what most people do. Most people get the plan. Their current environment is this crappy clay-based environment that's not conducive with optimizing, and they change nothing. And they say, oh, it doesn't work. Just didn't work for me. My metabolism is broken. Why do I suck so much? You've got to realize if you've been doing this, you need to focus on the soil. Meaning, get into the mastermind groups, get into the coaching groups, get into proximity to people that have the result that you want. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on mentoring because the one thing I found that's so important that was missing is proximity to the people at the highest level. That's why people will spend and invest big money in the one-on-one coaching with me, because I talk to them often and I can see how my behaviors and my mannerisms and my operating systems start to bleed over and become theirs. And when that happens, it's so much easier to implement all these low-hanging fruit concepts. It just becomes a natural thing. I've got people that will never, ever go back to their old selves. I've got some amazing people that have changed their life, and literally, I would never see them go back to their old selves because it's so habitual at this point. Their soil is so tended to, it's so nutrient rich, they'll never go back. And that's exactly what we do here. So as a business athlete, you have to remember that it's more than just supplements. It's more than just the workout. It's the environment as well. So if you were to take the environment concept I just shared and you were to stack these low-hanging fruit protocols in, you will get such a profound result that you won't even know what to do with yourself. It's just a thing that people are chasing endlessly. They do 75 out 8 times, but they don't understand these principles. So go out there today and look. Obviously, I gave you as many things here as I could think of. You don't even have to do all of these. There's like 14 or 15 of them. Go do 3. Go do the walking. Go do the rainbow concept and the protein. If you were even to do those things, that will move the needle for you. But all I can say is get out of your own way. Hold yourself to higher standards. And remember, if you want a better life, it starts with you. You cannot look around at someone to save you. No one's coming to save you, and it's no one else's fault. Take full ownership of your situation. Be accountable, and remind yourself that you are that high tide that rises all ships.